Our bailiff, Mr. Arnold Lozano, who will then be introducing Judge Victor Varela. Are we all ready?
Yes.
Are we ready?
Yes.
Great job. Thank you all very much for joining us. Enjoy.
All rise, please. Everybody stand. County Court Law number 2 is now in session. Honorable Judge Victor Villarreal is presiding.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Webb County Court of Law 2. Please be seated. Today we have some very special guests, students from Cigarroa High School. Would the students, their faculty members, and sponsors please stand and be recognized? Welcome, you may be seated. Other special guests include students from Martin High School. Would the students, their faculty members, and sponsors please stand and be recognized? Welcome, please be seated. Other very special guests include students from United Day Middle School. Would the students, their faculty members, sponsors please stand and be recognized? Three honored guests that are also Montcross sponsors of the court would like to recognize our Senator Judith Safrini, Webb County Commissioner John Galo, and Texas Parks and Wildlife Commissioner Ana Galo. The other honored guest joining us that we would like to recognize is Laredo Police Department Chief Deputy Ricardo Gonzalez. From Frontera Radio, Mr. Sergio Mora. And we also like to acknowledge the very helpful and very close friend of ours, that we acknowledge the assistance of Ms. Patty Tejerina. Bailiff?
Your Honor, the case of Lax Luther versus Superman is now ready to begin.
Very well. The prosecutor is Cecia Rodriguez, and her star witness is Lax Luther. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Very well. You may have a seat. The defendant, Superman, is represented by his attorney, Iris Vasquez Guerrero. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may have a seat. Another witness for the prosecution is Bruno Bale Banheim. The witness is directed to remove his hat and remove that cigar from your mouth. Such behavior violates the protocol of the courtroom. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may have a seat. The witness for the defense is Wonder Woman. Where's all this music coming from? Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Have a seat. I understand that the charges against Superman are impersonation, public indecency, using performance-enhancing drugs, and reckless public endangerment. Is everyone ready to begin?
Yes, Your Honor.
Will the bailiff please swear in the jury?
Yes, Your Honor. Help you out, please. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, can you please stand and raise your right hands?
Do you solemnly swear that you will listen to all the testimony today and decide the issue fairly?
I do.
Do you swear that you will not discuss this case with anyone until after you have reached the verdict?
I do.
You may be seated.
Your Honor, the jury's been sworn in and we're now ready to proceed with the trial.
Does the prosecution have an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the prosecution will show that Superman is guilty of impersonation, guilty of public indecency, guilty of using performance-enhancing drugs, and guilty of reckless public endangerment. When you hear the evidence, you most certainly will agree that Superman is guilty of flagrantly committing all of these crimes. He may fly high above us, but not so high that he is above the law. It's time we bring him down from the clouds. Thank you.
Counsel for the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. We will show that Superman is innocent of all those ridiculous charges. The prosecution is highly unlikely to produce a single eyewitness who truthfully can attest to his impersonation or public endangerment of anyone anywhere, or to any public indecency or doping at any time anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, at the end of this mock trial, you should give Superman a superhero's vote of confidence and find him not guilty of all charges. Thank you.
At this time, the prosecution may call its first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The prosecution calls Lex Luthor. State your name for the record, please.
My name is Lax Luthor. Call me Luthor.
Where do you live?
Wherever LaxCore, my multi-billion, that's billion with a B, business empire takes me. But mostly at my magnificent Laredo subdivision, Villain Village. It's close to Laredo Community College, where I keep my herd of golden palominos.
I see. Why did you file the charges against Superman?
I am sick and tired of this so-called superhuman superhero protector of the world. He is just an undocumented alien from another planet. He should go back to where he came from. And I am going to build a gigantic wall and keep him and all other aliens off of our planet. And I am going to make the people from Mars pay for it.
Can you be more specific?
If I hear one more person say, faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound, it's Superman! I'm gonna vomit. Besides, anyone who flies around that fast is a public hazard. He's as annoying as a supersonic South Texas Moscow, and I would like to swat him.
Do you have any idea of how fast Superman flies?
Have you ever seen a dust devil? It's a small whirlwind, column of dust and debris.
Thank you for the fun fact.
Superman is like 1,000 dust devils wrapped up into one. Just like A&M International's mascot, Dusty.
Objection, Your Honor, that's irrelevant. The witness is trying to ingratiate himself with any future dust devils on the jury.
Sustained.
Have you ever seen Superman impersonate anyone?
All the time. Sometimes he acts like a scaredy little boysy, girly, totally timid reporter. But other times, he acts like a holier-than-thou, self-appointed enforcer, descending from the heavens. In reality, he's an evil deceiver who gains information illegally in each one of those capacities. And then he uses it in the other capacity for personal vendettas against us criminals. Us empire builders.
Why is that impersonation?
Because nobody knows his true identity. He is a fake reporter writing fake news about his second persona. A fake superhero and fake super patriot. He gets and uses information both ways and always for a personal gain that is prohibited under the law.
Anything else?
Yes, Superman deliberately wears an obscene, skin-tight costume designed to expose his, admittedly, gorgeous physique. And those fabulous rippling muscles are clearly the result of somebody using steroids.
How does his public indecency relate to his impersonation?
It's a good question. The lewd, namby-pamby reporter goes to a public phone booth in full view of proper church-going men and women, and in a flash, he changes from his nondescript business attire into a magic flying suit and emerges as Superman. Is that the full extent of his public indecency? No way, Jose. As an additional slap in the face to public decency, he wears his even tighter underwear outside of his clothes. It's obscene, grosero.
Have you seen the defendant endanger the public?
Every day, he repeatedly and recklessly flies over restricted airspace above Laredo Air Force Base. He is a menace to every Air Force pilot, trainer, and trainee, not to mention to our drones that are monitoring our our thriving business practices on the Texas-Mexico border.
How well do you know Superman?
Well enough to know that he lives, and to quote Wikipedia, in a world in which the ordinary laws of nature are slightly suspended. He is a fooler. He fools the American public. He fools the world. But he doesn't fool me. He is a super bad, super creep, super jerk. And we must send this undocumented alien back to his birth planet on the other side of a huge interplanetary wall. And I promise you, again, the Martians, they'll pay for it.
No further questions.
Does the defense wish to cross-examine this witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Did you say your first name was Lex or Lax?
Lax. Lax. Like relax. Semi-lax. Ex-lax.
Lax. As in lax habits, lax attitude, lax morals?
Yeah, the same.
How appropriate. And is your surname really Luther, as in the great civil rights leader Martin Luther King?
Oh, no! Luther as in Martin Luther, the genius who challenged you Catholics. And now this genius is challenging Superman.
Mr. Luther.
Just Luther, you idiot! God, I'm surrounded by nincompoops.
The witness is directed to be more respectful and only speak when answering questions. Otherwise, you'll be held in contempt of court.
Exactly what proof do you have that Superman impersonates a wussy reporter or an undocumented police officer?
Everybody knows it.
Well, do you have any proof that Superman has changed in a phone booth?
Yeah. Everybody knows it.
And everybody in this courtroom knows that it is hearsay. Your Honor, I object.
The objection is sustained. The jury will disregard those statements.
Hearsay aside, do you have any grounds for accusing Superman of public indecency?
Absolutely. As I said, he wears his tight little underwear on the outside. That's crass. It's indecent and downright nasty. Come on, bougie.
You call his red overshorts underwear?
That's what they are.
I won't even go there. Dios mío. Have you ever seen Superman use performance-enhancing drugs?
I don't have to. Look at him. He's not normal. To quote DC Comics, visualize a hurricane with a will, then multiply that intensity 1,000-fold. That's Superman. That's proof enough for me.
Have you ever seen Superman endanger the public?
To repeat, every time he flies over a restricted airspace over Laredo Air Force Base, he endangers our military officers and pilots in training.
Are you aware Laredo Air Force Base was closed 45 years ago in 1973?
It was.
Indeed. foremost, everybody in this courtroom was born, especially the judge and students from Laredo High School?
I myself included, but
I thought so. Do you agree with this DC comic book portrayal of Superman as a superhero? And you as a superhero?
oh, that trashy Pulp Fiction is biased and discriminates against cool vatos like me. I mean, their Bola de Baboso readers should want to be like me. The personification of the American dream. Not this flying freak.
Isn't it true that your insane obsession with destroying our beloved Man of Steel has failed repeatedly? So you bribed the prosecution into accepting your charges against him.
Objection, Your Honor. I am unbribable. And to quote my favorite Republican president, Richard Nixon, I am not a crook. And to quote my favorite Democratic president, Bill Clinton, I did not have...
Objection! Sustained! Counselor! The prosecutor's honesty is not on trial here. One more insult like that and I'll fine you $500 and hold you in contempt of court.
Isn't it true that Superman has tirelessly thwarted your megalomaniacal crimes?
Must I remind you of my superiority? That meddling metiche little chulo boy is finally going to pay for it.
He is he? We shall see. By the way, I read in the same DC comic book that you want to eliminate Superman so you can run for president of the United States. Any truth to that?
Are you kidding? Do you know how much power I would have to give up to be president?
One more question. You say you lived all over the world, but where exactly were you born?
Smallville.
Smallville? Perfect. No more questions for this resident of Smallville.
You are excused. The prosecution may call your next witness.
The prosecution calls Bruno Mannheim. State your name, please.
Bruno Banheim. Everyone calls me Phil. You will too.
Yes, sir. What is your relationship with Superman and Lex Luthor?
Well, I hate Lax, but the enemy of my enemy is my friend. That's the only reason I cozied up to that obnoxious, pompous egomaniac.
Do you agree with Luthor that Superman is guilty of all the charges?
All of the above. That big blue Boy Scout in the sky acts so tough, but expels into one measly ounce of kryptonite and turns into a squealing panty boy. That's why I think it's just fine he wears his panties on the outside.
Objection, Your Honor. The witness has no right to refer to Superman's overshorts as panties.
The objection is sustained. It's another statement for the jury to disregard.
Is it okay to call him calzones and him calzon boy?
Have you witnessed Superman act as if he's above the law?
Who hasn't? He slanders us and gets away with it.
How does he slander you?
He's always singing U-G-L-Y, you ain't got no alibi, you ugly, yeah, you ugly. It upsets my mom.
Do you agree he is a menace to society, not his hero?
I'll bet my original crime Bible on it.
No further questions.
Does the defense wish to cross-examine this witness?
Yes, indeed, Your Honor. I have no problem calling you Fail. Fail. To begin with, who is your father?
Boxy Boss Banheim. Known worldwide as a sadistic psychopath. Everyone says I'm following in his footsteps.
And your mother?
Apocalypse.
Apocalypse, as in apocalypse?
Yep.
Are you the same Bruno Banheim who stars with Lex Luthor in DC Comics as Superman's arch enemies?
The very same. The only difference is DC Comics are English only. So they refer to me as ugly, not fatal. And by the way, they refer to Luther as Lex, not Lax. And to me as Bruno Mannheim, not Bruno Banheim. Your high-priced scriptwriter must have changed our names for this fractured fairy tale.
Whatever. Tell us about your original crime Bible you mentioned.
Sure. If you knew anything about DC Comics, I'm the leader of Intergang. We worship crime and live by the crime Bible. My pops and I own the original Kane Bible that is bound in real skin and real hair and it's wrapped in real crepitas. That's intestines if you don't speak Spanish. Anyhow, it's written on the exact same stone Cain used to kill his brother, Abel. We are committed to the legacy of Cain, the first murderer in history.
I actually read in this DC comic that you Intergang members are cannibals. Is that true?
That's how we enforce our crime Bible. We eat anybody who gets in our way. You know, some people eat animals, some people eat vegetables. They call themselves vegetarians. We eat humans and we call ourselves humanitarians.
Do you really eat people, or are you just trying to be scary?
Yes, we really eat people. A few of the guys prefer the lean beef of skinny people, but me and most prefer chubettes. Their fat makes sizzling chicharrones con salsa. Hey man, meat is meat, regardless of its source, and it's expensive. If somebody's dead, why waste all that good bacon?
Have you ever tried to eat Soup Arman?
You know, he's too fast to catch, but believe me, I'd like to make a super spicy beef soup out of him, using my favorite caldo de res recipe. Then you would really be Soup Arman. Or for us Spanish speakers, caldo man.
That's disgusting. Gross.
Don't be so delicate. I'll bet it's tuétano, that's bone marrow in Spanish, in English, would taste really good. You know, I would dehydrate those muscular arms, and those legs, make some super jerky.
Can we move on, please?
Gladly, Your Honor. Could you please identify this?
That's my own sweet concoction, a kryptonite pop.
And didn't you hire some innocent children to trick Soup Arman into eating some?
They got $10 each, so what?
And isn't it true your kryptonite pops weakened Soup Arman so your buddies could capture him and deliver him to be arrested and charged?
Under advice of counsel, I plead the fifth.
Objection, Your Honor. Faye was a witness for the prosecution, so obviously no charges are going to be filed against him. He is under oath and must answer the questions under cross-examination. Clearly, he doesn't know the difference between the Fifth Amendment and a fifth of Scotch whiskey.
The witness will answer the question.
Okay, I admit it. Big deal. Actually, we were hoping so much kryptonite would kill him, but it didn't. And by the way, Judge, I got a case of these delicious pots for you and the jurors.
Objection, Your Honor. The witness is trying to bribe the judge and jury.
Sustained. Fail. Bribery is against the law. If you try that again, I'm going to hold you in contempt of court.
Sorry, Judge. I gave a case to the prosecutor, so I thought it'd be okay.
Objection, Your Honor. The prosecution turned it down to how many times must I say? I am unbribable.
The objection is sustained. The jury will disregard all offers to kryptonite pots.
Is Soup Arman an impediment to your devotion to crime?
The biggest.
No more questions.
You are excused.
The prosecution rests, Your Honor.
Excuse me, Your Honor. May I be excused? I have some business to attend to.
Certainly, officer. You're excused. The defense may call its first witness.
The defense calls Soup Arman.
Stop that music. Highly inappropriate. I heard it before. I thought it was coming from outside The courtroom, where's it coming from?
Not from us, Your Honor. No one knows. It's part of this marvelous man's mystique. He always enters to his own sound of music. Please state your name.
Superman.
Would you spell it, please?
IT.
I beg your pardon. I meant, would you spell your name, please?
S-O-U-P, soup. R as in righteous, M-A-N-N, as in Man Road in Laredo. Some say it's to emphasize my manliness.
Also known as Kal-El, the Man of Steel, the last son of Krypton, and the greatest superhero of all time.
My biological and adoptive parents would have loved to hear that, but I'm mostly known as Superman.
Are you the same Super-Man immortalized in hundreds of DC comic books and in more than 50 movies dating back to 1938?
Close. The only difference is I'm Superman, and they refer to me as Superman.
Where do you live?
Under the Privacy Protection Act of the law enforcement, I respectfully decline to give my address. I spend my time wherever I'm needed, but especially in Metropolis, and right here in Laredo, where I can keep an eye on lax and fail.
And we're glad that you do. Is it true that you are an undocumented alien?
No, I don't have a permanently earthly address, so no one can argue legitimately that I reside anywhere illegitimately. I am, however, a dreamer.
Agreed. What effect does kryptonite have on you?
A little bit weakens me, a lot can kill me.
What did kryptonite have to do with you being arrested?
Some children gave me a case of those watermelon-flavored green candy just before I had my merienda. I didn't know they were kryptonite, so I ate several dozen of them.
Then what happened?
I went into a super stupor. I vaguely remember Fale and his secret society of supervillains throwing a whaling net over me, then delivering me to police headquarters while Luther filed charges with the prosecutor. I also remember them laughing and saying, "Is it a bird? Is it a plane?" No. It's an undocumented, docked whale named Superman. When I came to, I was in a cell.
Are you weak now?
No, I got over it.
Why didn't you use your superpowers to escape?
I believe in the rule of law and due process. Breaking out would make me a fugitive from the law, so I decided to wait respectively for my trial.
Very admirable. Exactly what super senses do you have?
Superhuman hearing and telescopic and microscopic and X-ray vision.
So if you wanted any information, you could just use those super senses to get it, without having to depend on an alt personality like a reporter?
I could, but I don't. I use my super senses only to protect and defend, never to break the law.
What superpowers do you have?
Superhuman strength, speed, breath, invulnerability, flight, including super jumping and super leaping, and vocal abilities, including hitting the grass, shattering high notes, and ventriloquism.
Given your fabulous physique, legendary powers, and George Clooney good looks, why would you impersonate a weak, whiny, unattractive reporter?
No reason. Some people say I do, but nobody can prove it.
Have you ever used any performance-enhancing drugs?
Surely you just.
Please pardon the stupid question, but I'm afraid I have to ask another one. Based on the charges before us, how do you respond to the charges of public indecency, specifically that you changed in phone booths?
What phone booths? I don't know of a single phone booth in Laredo, and nobody in this courtroom has probably even heard of a phone booth, much less seen one. If there isn't one, how could I possibly change in it?
Agreed. On a related note, how do you respond to the specific charge of wearing your underwear on the outside?
Those old school fashionistas apparently don't know overshorts are classics dating back to the 1930s and remained in style, especially with jocks like me. Besides, who's ever seen underwear with a belt? I mean, do these look like chones?
Actually, I think they're pretty nice. Have you ever flown in restricted airspace?
Not in Laredo. Ever since the federal government closed Laredo's Air Force Base, there is no restricted airspace here.
Have you ever endangered anyone anywhere?
Never, ever.
Is there anything else you want to say?
I am here to fight for truth and justice and the American way. God bless the USA.
Objection, Your Honor. That was a leading question.
Let's move on.
Pass the witness.
Does the prosecution wish to cross-examine this witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Do you deny ever getting confidential information from trusted sources as a reporter and then using the information illegally to bust criminals, thereby reaping a professional benefit in law enforcement?
I do.
Do you deny getting confidential information as a peace officer and then using the information to write stories in the newspaper, thereby reaping a professional benefit as a journalist?
I do.
You are under oath.
I am.
How can you sit there with a straight face and lie under oath?
Objection, Your Honor. The prosecutor is badgering the witness.
Well, ordinarily I would sustain the objection, Counselor, but I'd like to hear the answer, so overruled.
I am not lying. Others may impersonate me, but I do not impersonate anyone.
Have you or have you not impersonated?
Objection, Your Honor. Asked and answered.
Sustained. Move on, Counselor.
How can you deny the charges of public indecency?
You will never hear anyone say truthfully that he or she has seen me act or dress incorrectly. Never. eBay sells more revealing clothes than anything I wear, and we've seen what students wear at the beach during spring break. Frankly, my overshorts don't reveal, they conceal.
Why do you wear your underwear on the outside?
They actually add a layer of modesty, but, Your Honor, do I have to explain?
Certainly not. I think we all get the picture. You're more modest with those overshirts on than without, right?
Right.
How do you account for your superhuman senses and physical and mental powers if you don't use steroids or other performance-enhancing drugs?
It's how I was born. I've never had to explain it.
And you testified earlier that your adventures as Superman have been chronicled since 1938?
I did.
That's 81 years ago.
81 years last June.
That would make you 101 years old?
That's what they tell me.
Now, how do you explain looking under 30?
I don't.
Objection, Your Honor. Asking about Superman's age is not an issue, and it is age discrimination. Next, the prosecutor will ask him if he uses Botox or has had a face or body lift. It's irrelevant and immaterial.
Sustained.
Is it your testimony today you never endangered the public while flying over the Laredo Air Force Base?
There is no Laredo Air Force Base.
Is it your testimony today that you did not fly over the Laredo Air Force Base?
There is no Laredo Air Force Base.
You certainly have a slick and quick tongue, don't you? I bet Phil would love to have it on a tortilla with salsa picante. As he would say, you know, that's a big, fat, juicy tongue for you non-Spanish speakers.
Objection, Your Honor. The prosecutor is being argumentative and insulting.
Sustained. The jury will disregard that threatening insult.
What makes you so arrogant as to think that the world is your taco and you are above the law?
No one is above the law. We who enforce the law must first obey the law.
What makes you so egocentric as to think that it is your duty to save the world?
With great power comes great responsibility.
Now you're stealing Spider-Man's line.
No, actually. Voltaire said it first. Winston Churchill, President Roosevelt, and I said it during World War II. Spider-Man didn't come around until 1962. But he used it so much, people attribute it to him.
You're just full of fun facts, aren't you? Do you have any form of personal identification, a driver's license, a registration card, a student ID?
I do not.
So you admit you are an undocumented alien.
Objection, Your Honor. Irrelevant. Superman's residency is not a question before this court. Besides, that's a federal issue, and we are in a county court.
Prosecutor, what is the relevance of your question?
Your Honor, if he has shown anyone a card, a badge, an emblem, identification indicating he is a peace officer, when in fact he is not, then he has committed the crime of impersonation.
Your Honor, like many young people, Soup Arman is a dreamer. His residency status is irrelevant to the specific crimes charged.
You are correct, Counselor. The law applies the same way to all, whether documented or undocumented. The objection is sustained.
Isn't it true that you slandered Phil by singing UGLY to him?
I simply sang. UGLY, you ain't got no alibi, you ugly. Woo, woo, you.
Slander is a crime, Superman, even for you.
The truth is the ultimate defense, ma'am. And that is a legal fact.
No further questions.
You may step down. The defense may call. The defense may call its next witness.
The defense calls Wonder Woman. State your name, please.
Princess Diana of the Amazons, popularly known as Wonder Woman. That's W-U-N-D-E-R.
What is your relationship to Superman and to Lex Luthor?
Superman is my compadre and colleague. Lex Luthor is my mortal enemy.
How do you differentiate them?
The first is good, the second is evil.
Do you work with Superman?
Yes, we are the original co-founders of the Justice League, along with Batman.
Oh, who are some of the other members?
Spider-Man, Rubberman, Captain Marvel, the list goes on.
More men than women in your workforce?
So it's new. Superwoman and I are trying to change that. We want to get equal pay for equal work and empowerment for all women while we're at it. Now that more women than men are going to college, it's getting easier. More women power!
Have you ever seen Soup Arman using anything, even caffeine, to enhance his powers?
No.
Have you ever seen him endanger anyone by flying in restricted airspace?
Never. To the contrary, he has saved many lives flying in those zones. Every time Lex Luthor tosses poor Lorena Lane out of a skyscraper or plane, Superman flies in faster than lightning, sometimes through restricted airspace, and catches her just in the nick of time.
Have you or Superman ever shown a badge to make someone believe you are a government law enforcement officer?
Never.
Not even at the bridge or Border Patrol checkpoint?
Never.
What is your opinion of Soup Arman being charged with public indecency?
ludicrous. If he is convicted, then every superhero should be too. Me, Spider-Man, Aquaman, Rubberman, the list goes on. And if we were all incarcerated, who would protect and defend the good citizens of Laredo and the USA? These charges are downright foolish.
Foolish. Can you expand on that?
To quote my favorite song, you don't tug on Superman's cape, you don't spit into the wind, you don't pull the mask off the old Lone Ranger, and you don't mess around with Jim. That would be foolish.
Who's Jim?
I don't know. But Lax and Fail are trying to tug at Superman's cape with these foul charges, and they're just spitting into the wind.
Thank you. Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Does the prosecution wish to cross-examine this witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Wonder Woman, do you even know how to spit?
Come a little closer and I'll show you how an Amazon spits.
No, thank you. Why do you worry your pretty little head about fighting supervillains instead of being a pretty little princess and living happily ever after with your Prince Charming?
Because there's nothing prettier than putting hideous criminals and corrupt prosecutors behind bars. Échalos al bote, throw them in the can.
Can you honestly deny that neither you nor Superman has impersonated anyone or violated standards of public decency with your attire?
I can.
Do you believe that Superman's human abilities are natural and not the result of prohibited drugs?
I do. He is naturally gifted physically, mentally. Why, he can complete Laredo's high school curriculum in seconds.
But you admit Superman has flown in restricted airspace over the Laredo Air Force Base.
With all due respect, ma'am, what planet do you come from? There is no Laredo Air Force Base. Just like there is no phone booth here. He may have flown in restricted airspace elsewhere, but not in Laredo. He's also flown in outer space, but you don't see NASA complaining, do you? In fact, they named him an honorary astronaut.
So, since you admit Superman has violated restricted airspace, even if it's to save lives, it's your position that the ends justify the means?
It is my position that charges were filed against my compadre in Laredo, and that there is no restricted airspace in Laredo.
Do you believe you and Superman and other so-called superheroes are above the law?
Ma'am, we are the Justice League. We are not above the law, we are the law. We fight crime wherever in the world we are needed. Our favorite pastime is to fight corrupt prosecutors and make deals with crime lords like Lex Luthor. But we'll deal with you another day.
Objection, Your Honor. Wonder Woman is being hostile and non-responsive.
You simply answered your question, Counselor. Overruled.
No further questions, Your Honor.
You may step down, Wonder Woman.
We have no more witnesses, Your Honor. The defense rests.
Very well. We will now hear closing arguments. Is the prosecutor ready?
Yes, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have heard some nonsensical denials, ostensibly under oath. Consider instead the obviously more credible testimony of Lex Luthor and Fail, billionaires, that's with a B. Do not believe Superman and his comadre and Wonder Woman. They are fellow undocumented aliens from other planets. I mean, just look at them. Would you go out in public dressed in such tight, revealing, indecent outfits? I know you wouldn't. Yet, with flagrant disrespect to the public, most especially our growing population of elderly, pious women in Laredo, Superman has repeatedly engaged in lewd and indecent exposure and conduct, changing clothes in telephone booths and wearing his underwear outside his clothes. Would you want your children to do that? I don't think so. Surely not. If you had nothing to hide or gain, would you impersonate a cowardly alter ego or a peace officer? Of course not. This is a criminal act because he assumes fake identities to gain personal and the professional benefit while causing injury to or defrauding others. And how in the world can Superman possibly deny enjoying the forbidden fruits of steroids and other performance-enhancing drugs? How else could he leap to the heavens in a single bound, flick away meteors with a finger, and single-handedly defeat secret society of supervillains like Bizarro or Brainiac or even Lex Luthor and fail? Do you know anyone who can fly without drugs? I don't think so. And if you could fly, would you even think of entering restricted airspace, endangering our families? Never. The law is the law, and you cannot break it to justify any means, even to save lives. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, only you have the power to bring this flying fooler and dangerous doper down to earth. It's time for his forced landing. I implore you to find Superman guilty of impersonation, guilty of public indecency, guilty of using performance-enhancing drugs, and guilty of endangering the public. As for Wonder Woman, we'll deal with her later. Thank you.
Counsel for the defense.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the prosecutor's case is a flying bag of falsehoods. Lax and fail are perfect names for the prosecution's witnesses. They have lax morals and ugly characters. What's more, they are crass, crooked, mental midgets. Straight out of DC Comics and grade B movies. Zero credibility. The prosecution wrongly implies that Superman is here illegally. First, this is not an immigration court. And second, there is no evidence, nor is there a charge to that effect. Equally important, why would Superman impersonate a reporter to get information when he could simply use his supervision or super hearing to get any information he needs, though he doesn't? And how can he be accused rightfully of impersonating a non-threatening reporter when everyone knows there is no such thing as a non-threatening reporter? Just ask Hillary Clinton, or even better, President Trump. On a related note, how can Superman be accused of impersonating a peace officer when he is the best law enforcer on earth? Furthermore, how could he change in a Laredo phone booth when there are no phone booths in Laredo? And how could he be accused of indecently wearing his underwear on the outside when anyone under 30 knows he wears stylish, belted outer shorts that actually enhance his modesty? Only jealous rivals would accuse this supremely naturally endowed, proud specimen of manhood with indecency. And with using prohibited drugs. Frankly, he's gifted in rather obvious departments, and they're not. More important, why shouldn't Superman enter restricted airspace to save someone? If you fell out of a plane in restricted airspace, Wouldn't you want Superman to fly in and save you? You know the answer, and so do I. Yes, Miss Prosecutor, in some cases, the ends do justify the means. Even so, that example doesn't apply here because the charges were filed in Laredo, and there is no restricted Air Force base in Laredo. So, how can you violate it? Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, based on the prosecution's lack of evidence, your decision is obvious. Find Soup Arman not guilty of all charges. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you've now heard all of the evidence in this case. It's now up to you to decide if Soup Arman is guilty of any or all of these charges. Please use your 10 minutes wisely to consider all of the evidence that you have heard. Bailiff, at this time you may escort the jury into the jury room to consider the verdict. All rise for the jury.
Everybody stand up. And form 2 lines here.
The jury has left the courtroom to deliberate the verdict. In the jury room, you may be seated. After we hear the verdict and the trial is adjourned, our elected officials and honored guests are invited to join the group of students here to be photographed with the cast at the bench. First, however, it's my pleasure to convene you students as the court of public opinion. The purpose of our court of public opinion is to ask how you, the public represented by you students here today, feel about whether Superman is guilty or not guilty of these charges. So, what I'm going to do is ask you the same questions that the jury is now answering. We will have a voice vote, and if I can't tell how the majority feels, then we'll have a standing vote. Are you ready?
Yes.
First, if you agree that Superman did impersonate a reporter or a peace officer for personal benefit, say yes. If you disagree, say no.
No.
The noes prevail. Second, if you agree that Superman is guilty of public indecency, say yes. If you disagree, say no.
No.
The noes prevail. Third, if you agree that Superman did use performance-enhancing drugs, say yes.
Yes.
If you disagree, say no.
No.
The noes prevail. Finally, if you agree that Superman endangered the public by violating restricted Air Force space, say yes.
Yes.
If you disagree, say no.
No.
The noes prevail. So, this court of public opinion has found that Superman is not guilty of impersonation, not guilty of public indecency, not guilty of using performance-enhancing drugs, and not guilty of endangering the public by flying in restricted Air Force space. Let's see what the 12 jurors find. Now, as we wait for them, we have time for a question or two. Who has a question? Yes, ma'am, you're in front.
What inspired you to become a judge?
It's a very good question. The answer is, what inspired me to become a judge? After 10 years of practicing law, I saw things that I wanted to do different, make better, and change, and the opportunity came up. I applied for this position when it came open, and now I get get to give people their day in court, give them fairness, honesty, transparency, and then the voters decided to return me to the bench. So it was a desire to want to make a difference in this court. Thank you for the question. Other questions? Yes, sir.
How long did it take you to be a judge?
The question is, how long did it take me to be a judge? The answer is, to be a judge of a county court or district court, you need to graduate from high school, then graduate from a college or university, then 3 years of law school. And when you've reached about 4 years of practice, you're eligible to be appointed or to run for judge. Good question. Other questions? In the back, yes ma'am.
How did your life change being a judge?
It's a very good question. The question is, how did my life change from being a judge? So before, I used to take a position. I used to be like a prosecutor or a defense attorney, always representing my client. And I was a judge. It's a different role. It's being fair and impartial. So I don't really have an interest whether one side wins or the other side wins or who loses or wins. The only issue, the only question before the court is what's right and just, and how does the law apply to the facts of the case. So that was a big change for me. Other questions? Yes, sir.
What happens if the jury doesn't reach a decision?
The question is, what happens if the jury doesn't reach a decision? The answer is they can send questions to the court. Sometimes they may have a question and they'll send it in writing. We've had that happen during actual trials and during mock trials. The jury will have a question, they'll answer, I'll tell counsel what the question is and I'll send it back. But always referring to them, always refer them to the evidence before them, the testimony that they heard, always going back to what it is they heard, because they're the judges of the facts. The judge in the court is the judge of the law, but they get to determine. These randomly selected members of the public are the ones that determine who is right and who is guilty and not. At this time, we've been informed that the jury has reached a verdict. So all rise for the jury. The jury has returned to the courtroom and is now in the jury box. You may be seated. Mr. Foreperson, has the jury reached a verdict?
Yes, Your Honor.
The defendant and his attorney will please rise.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Soup Arman, not guilty of the offense of impersonation. We, the jury, find the defendant, Soup Arman, not guilty of the offense of public indecency. We, the jury, find the defendant, Soup Arman, not guilty of the offense of using performance-enhancing drugs. We, the jury, find the defendant, Soup Arman, not guilty of the offense of endangering the public by violating, restricting airspace.
The jury has spoken and the defendant has been found not guilty. The defendant and his attorney may be seated. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, all of you students, for listening carefully and making this important decision.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Well, this is highly unlikely, but I'll allow it.
Your Honor, Feo admitted under oath that not only he committed the crime of cannibalism, which includes murder, but also that he attempted to kill our superhero, Soup Arman, with an overdose of kryptonite. And in this very courtroom, Your Honor, he blatantly attempted to bribe the judge and jury. Before he gets away, I have an arrest warrant to execute immediately.
The court has reviewed it and everything seems to be in order, and quite frankly, I'm not surprised. You may proceed, but make sure to give him his Miranda warning.
Yes, Your Honor. Bruno Feo Mannheim.
You lied to me! You lied to me, Lex! You said I'd be free, come on.
For murder and attempted murder. I'm gonna read you Miranda warnings like we do to everybody that we arrest. Fun fact. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you can't afford an attorney, one will be provided for you. You also have the right to consult with an attorney before any and all questioning. If you waive your right to have an attorney present while questioning, you can stop all questioning upon your request. You understand your rights as they have been read to you?
Yeah, I need a lawyer. Will you be my lawyer?
No,
Stop, I'll
that's
send you
fine.
whatever you want. Come on.
Stop resisting!
Come on, it's tight.
That was a shock, but Feo admitted under oath in the presence of the judge, the jury, and the police that he broke the law, and now he's suffering the consequences. He will, however, have his day in court and the opportunity to defend himself before a jury of his peers. Here's another fun fact. Ladies and gentlemen, we students, we thank you and your faculty, your teachers, your sponsors for being with us today. We hope that you have enjoyed this mock trial as much as you have learned from it. We are very grateful to the team from WA who has provided all the makeup and artistry: Norma Rodriguez, Pearl Rodriguez, Amanda Pescador, and Zerina Tristan. Thank you. We're also especially grateful to the director of the mock trial, Tony Bondock, and his assistant, Javier Sanchez. And I know that you have enjoyed the outstanding performances of Lex Luthor, played by David Barrera. Soup, our man, Jeffrey Blomquist. Prosecutor, Cecia Rodriguez. Defense attorney, Iris Vasquez Guerrero. Bruno Feo Mannheim, Mike Angel. Wonder Woman, Desiree Perez. Our police officer, Emmanuel Diaz. And bailiff, Arnold Lozano. We're also very grateful to the person who wrote both your mock trial script and your handbook, Senator Judith Zaffarini. Superman, Wonder Woman, Lex Luthor, Feo, and the entire cast will be available to take pictures with you here at the bench. The elected officials and honored guests that join us are also invited to join us here as well. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, we hope that you have enjoyed seeing justice in action in today's Access to Justice class in the courtroom. You saw for yourselves the importance of obeying the law, the consequences of breaking the law, and even you got to see Miranda rights being read as somebody was arrested. Please come back and visit Webb County Court of Law 2 and tell your friends, your family, and your loved ones that they're welcome to come and visit as well. At this time, court is adjourned.